think we should be going live. I know there's a little bit of a delay. We're here. Okay. Yay. Welcome, everybody, to the Medicare Cafe pre-chat. You're joined today by your host, Olivia Richardson.
And I'm Carrie Vogt.
And really excited to kind of just get this shindig going. I'm exhausted, all right? I know
You've been traveling.
We have a few minutes before the cafe actually starts, but I just got back from Nashville. And I am a boot-scooting, redneck, honky-tonking kind of gal. And my gosh, I'm really
boots
sleepy.
Scooted out?
My boots are scooted, and I am done. I am done with it. So it was a really great time. Inflation definitely hit that hard. They went from like $5 a drink to over $10 a drink there.
What?
Like a 12-ounce beverage, $10 per. Yeah, wasn't fun. I did see the Johnny Cash Museum. I know in the past we've done a lot of discussion on like our favorite artists and things like that. I'm obsessed. I love Johnny Cash.
I didn't know that.
I do.
Wow.
My son, I'll post a video of it. My son is
Loves
also he'll be 2 in June. My son loves Johnny Cash.
My nephew is named Cash after Johnny Cash.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I actually love the name Cash for that, but it was really cool. So if you guys, I would love to hear if anybody here has been to Nashville in the past. I am currently... I'm rocking the blues today. That's all I'll say, the Nashville blues. But would love to hear your favorite part in Nashville. Don't forget, you can text us or, of course, comment on our YouTube majiggers. And, yeah. So, anyways.
I've been to Nashville once.
Once? How long ago?
It was probably 2 or 3 years ago.
You need to go back. It's a good time.
Because I went for a wedding.
Take out a loan.
So we just had like wedding festivities. You know, I didn't actually to like experience Nashville.
You need to go back.
So,
then.
yeah,
I need to go back.
It's
like the #1 platform for like, there are so many bachelorette parties that I'm just like.
I believe it.
You know, like the old-fashioned woo girls? It's a lot of like,
a
woo!
lot
A lot of woo girls. So.
What do they call them? Hype girls or something?
Hype? Yeah, probably. There was a lot. But yeah, so I know we, want to get started here at the top of the hour, but you said you had a weird PDP situation you wanted to talk about before we actually kick into the show?
I got one of my clients called me yesterday saying that she's on a PDP, that she got a letter from her drug plan saying that one of her eye drops isn't covered due to it was WellCare, not WellCare denied it, but actually CMS denied it.
Weird. An eye drop?
And she had filled it the few months before. And so it was clearly a formulary change, and come to find out, the generic wasn't covered by Medicare, but the brand name is.
That actually happens a lot. Do you know when it came off patent?
Don't know.
So a lot of
this was news this morning.
So a lot of these medications will actually, like, in the middle, of course, of the year, they will lose their patent. Like they'll have a 5-year or a 10-year patent, and they'll lose that. And the minute that they lose that, generics start being made of that medication. And as soon as the first generic becomes available, almost always the PDP carriers will drop the drop the generic. Time out, I'm saying this backwards.
I was going to say, so it was the generic that wasn't covered.
Generic that wasn't. Okay, well, that might be something different.
Right?
But, I mean, like, they will, in the middle of the year, we'll talk about this today, actually, on the formularies, they can change in the middle of everything. And especially when those patents come off, they will drop the brand name and only allow generic. But that's weird. I don't know why they would do that.
I feel like I've been hearing that that's happening with Eliquis. And I feel like that is my most common...
What is
brand
Eliquis
name
for?
drug. It's for AFib.
Okay, we're not talking about the eye drops anymore.
No, sorry. No, sorry. It's a heart medication. It's a heart medication.
I wasn't going to question it, but I was like, that just seems like a really weird way to get to the heart through the eye.
No.
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
No, they don't treat AFib this way.
You could tell me that's how it's treated. I was like, that makes sense.
At least I don't think so.
Interesting.
But
Well, all right, guys, we'll go ahead. On to today's topic. Let's go ahead and talk about taking care. Oops, I need to fix that. Taking care of unhappy clients. And this was actually something that was your idea, wanting to talk about how exactly, this happens a lot. What to do with that. Again, guys, if you do have any questions, comments, concerns, threats, and or promises, put them. You can either text us, and see we've already gotten a few texts coming through.
I eloped in Nashville 16 years ago.
Congrats. I wanted to
exciting.
elope so bad. Nashville would be a good place to do that, too. Would be. You can either text our text line or, of course, put it in the quote-unquote the chat, a.k.a. comment on our stuff. But today we wanted to talk about exactly unhappy clients. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, I think a lot of agents think, well, that won't happen to me. I'm the best agent there is. There's no reason anybody's ever going to complain about me. And you kind of brought up these things of, hey, things happen. Things can go bad. And it's not always your fault.
Right. I mean, yes, a lot of times our job is, like I said, rainbows and butterflies. It's wonderful. But, I mean, the reality is things are out of your control. We're all human. Mistakes are going to happen, whether it's on your end, the agent's end, whether it's on your staff's end, or the insurance carrier, or the client. Maybe the client, forgot something or whatever it is, but mistakes happen. And I kind of had run into just, I guess, multiple, scenarios lately, and I thought we could talk about them.
Yeah, just talk about that. So one of the things we had on here was talking about how, the providers can change.
Oh, yeah.
And how, throughout the year, and that's, something, I know you were kind of telling me a story about how you were talking to somebody, and they were saying, well, was it a provider or a formulary change that you had? They were like, I thought I could take this, now I can't, or I thought I can go to this person, now I can't.
With the Aetna change of carrier or the drug?
Yes. I think it was I don't know. I know you were telling me something about a provider thing.
So, well, they're one of the large hospitals here in town.
That's what it was, yeah.
So obviously we all know AEP ends December 7th. December 6th, they sent out letters saying that they were no longer in network with one of the big hospitals here. And so I remember vividly, it was December 8th. I had 4 clients call me saying, I just got a letter saying my provider's out of network. We just met a week or a month ago, and things were in network. What's going on? And really come to find out that hospital and that insurance carrier just, I guess they didn't get their contracting worked out or whatever it was.
And
still haven't. And so, it's not that anybody's at fault, but it's both of them, they obviously didn't work out that negotiation or whatever it is. And so, I had to tell my clients, be patient, wait. Yes, right now, between now and the end of the year, we can't make any changes after January 1. This was a Medicare Advantage plan, obviously. Then we can do things. And so they were very unsettled for those. I mean, that's because they'll make a change during OEP, but they won't go into effect until the 1st of February. And so
that's an entire month that, hey, if something happens, you can't go to this provider. And again, that's not your fault. You did everything right. You did check the providers, but in their mind, they don't care who messed up. They know that, I was told by January 1 I was going to be fine. Now I'm finding out that we have to meet again, and I'm going to have an entire month where my provider's not in network. Again, that's a scary thing to have a conversation about. And again, really, you're not at fault, but you're still the one having to have that conversation.
And a lot of clients or a lot of people don't know about OEP. And so they just think, oh my gosh, December 7th is done. What, am I stuck this whole year?
And that's terrifying because you're talking about where do they receive their health? And for a lot of people, they have terrible experiences at one hospital or the other. And that's life or death in their mind, honestly.
Especially because, Columbia's a kind of a smaller town. We only have 2 main places you can go.
You're one or the other.
Right.
The other one I want to talk about again really quick was, again, formulary changes. That's something that we were just talking about. But a lot of individuals, and it's not so much that anybody messed up, because CMS and the carriers have the ability to change formularies, change providers at the whole year. But you don't necessarily have that conversation with someone during AEP to coach them through, hey, this is where we're at January 1. This can change, because your job is to make them feel comfortable and to alleviate risk. If you're telling them, hey, we're doing all these things, there's still a risk that this isn't going to be taken care of by, January 1, that these formularies can change. It's very unsettling to them. So nobody's at fault. Nobody did anything wrong. But it's really important, again, if you don't coach them that, hey, this looks like the right plan for you starting today,
right now,
but things can change throughout the entire year. And that's always something really scary to think about as well.
Yeah. And again, I think the important thing is just not pointing fingers and just kind of owning up that if, this example that my client, I'll have to call her after this and tell her, we found out it's the brand name that actually is covered and not the generic, and there was some type of change in their formulary.
You didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
You quoted her based on what it was, and it changed. But it's just like, how do you, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, how do you handle that conflict? How do you handle that conversation? The next thing I want to talk about, and again, we're going to talk about after this breaking down what to do if it is your fault versus not your fault, but I wanted to talk really quickly again about answering the real question. I think this is something that I've actually fallen victim to talking to agents and having that communication with agents is that, and I'll just give an example from my perspective. We were working with an agency who is really big into the D-SNP market, which they really, really loved it, was doing really well. It was the last month, it was December, and of course this was before LIS, it was before it was one SEP per quarter. It was as many times as you wanted throughout the year. And so they were getting ready to enroll, and what happened was they didn't ask us. They asked their local market rep, and they said, is there a problem with me enrolling these people in December? And the local market rep heard, well, no, like you can enroll them all year round. It doesn't matter. You have the election, so yeah, go ahead and enroll them in December. So this agent wrote 70-something apps for December 1. Just killed it. Just did an amazing job. Was really expecting a check for, $60,000 probably in commissions. Oh my goodness. Ended up, because they asked the question, the rep didn't really understand what the question was, ended up getting a pay for like $2,600 because he got prorated. He wrote it for a December 1st effective date. So instead of getting 12 months worth of commission, they got one month worth of commission. And then, of course, that's it. If he would have waited until January 1, he would have gotten that giant paycheck he was expecting. And it's just making sure you understand. Somebody's going to ask you a question, but what does that question actually mean? And it actually reminds me of one of your cases that you were talking about where it was, okay, now I'm going to go crazy, but somebody was asking, yes, is my immunotherapy covered? And so kind of explain that one, because I think that's the case of, yes, immunotherapy is covered, but in this case...
Yeah, he asked me if immunotherapy was covered, and I said yes. And
because it is 9 out of 10 times.
I should have dug deeper. What type? And that was my lack of knowledge that I didn't realize there's multiple. I think of immunotherapy and I think of cancer.
Right.
This was his immunotherapy at his allergist. And they're allergy shots that are mixed in office when he's there and are administered, and it's like $900 a month. And he signed up for his MedSup and his drug plan, and he first, when his effective date was, that first month that he got him, he was like, he emailed me right away. He said, you said these were covered, and copied my email where I said that this is covered, and he said, why did I get billed?
Yeah. And that's terrifying because, like $900.
Yeah, my heart was in my stomach.
That's like a life-changing, life-altering thing. Like, that's not, especially somebody who's on that fixed income. I mean, that's terrifying. So how did you...
It's actually a really cool situation that it's developed into.
So tell me about that.
It's actually developed into something positive.
Okay.
I told him, I said, I owned up to it, first of all. I was like, I should have asked further what type of immunotherapy it was. Let me do some research and figure out why this is denying it. First of all, they were billing his PDP.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
So then I was like, bill your Part B and your MedSup should cover it. They did that. Wasn't covered.
Okay.
And so then I was like, okay, I got to do some digging here. So I actually called the provider, allergist, and figured out more. And they said it's not FDA approved. We have so many Medicare clients, and it's never been paid for. And I ended up building a good relationship with this provider, and she was like, I've never met anybody that's dug this deep before. And she was like, I would love if you can help me figure out how to bill this and send help our other Medicare clients. Yeah. And so basically we have a conversation again on Wednesday about kind of a backstory for me. Also, I used to do medical billing, and so it's all about...
So that makes sense. You know that
there's
language.
There's certain billing codes for the type of immunotherapy that I'm trying to figure out if she's billing it the right way. Because I pulled up the CPT codes on cms.gov, and it should say those types of immunotherapy, allergy, mixed in office are covered.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I can turn this around.
Opportunity, though. I mean, it is very interesting, and we'll talk more about that here in a little bit, how to turn something that's that terrifying into what that opportunity can look like.
Right.
But again, the last thing, that's kind of to the last thing, is the billing may not match up. I actually see this a lot with these mistakes being made, is because agents ask the right questions, But clients don't always have the right responses. Clients don't know. Again, I don't know how many times I talk to somebody. I say, okay, what Medicare supplement you're on? Like, yes, I'm on a supplement. You ask what kind. Then they say, well, I'm on this HMO by United Healthcare. Because clients don't know.
No, they don't know the language.
They have no idea what the language is. So I've seen it happen a ton where someone will say, okay, this is a $0 premium. Don't worry about it. You don't have to put a premium in there, or, we still have to take your billing information, but you're not going to pay anything for it. Well, then it turns out they had a Part D penalty, or they had an IRMA, situation. So we'll say, like, okay, you're not going to pay any for that. Well, then they start getting these bills, and then, like, even though they may have not given you all the right information, that billing may not add up, which makes you looking like the bad guy again. Even though you did nothing wrong, you educated them, you let them know what IRMA was. They just didn't really understand it and told you that they did understand it. And then when there was some follow-up billing from that, people get really frustrated and concerned.
Do you think most agents are asking their clients about their income levels?
To an extent, but not really. They're not doing the digging to find out truly. Like, I would be, again, most of the time when I'm working with, especially newer agents, they're really uncomfortable with that. And so they don't want to get into answering questions or talking too much about IRMA or things like that, because they don't want to get asked questions about it.
Right.
So they just avoid the topic altogether. And honestly, for the majority of individuals, as you see, like the statistics show, I think it's like 85% of people do not apply do not qualify for IRMA. So 85% of the time, that's fine.
Right.
But whenever it does come up, the person you don't want to piss off is a high affluent client or a high income earner, and they're the ones who are getting caught off guard with these bills.
With 99% of my clients, have always asked, I talk about IRMA because I know the majority of mine are more affluent. I made a mistake of completely misreading the situation. It was an in-home visit. This was my first few months. We were visiting, like, in there. They lived in a trailer. There were literally like cockroaches. I didn't bring up IRMA. She called me later, and they were subject to, like, just because their living quarters might not look like they would be subject to IRMA.
Yeah.
They were, and I felt terrible. She was mad at me. Of course she was.
Of course she was, yeah.
Because I didn't tell her about it.
Yeah. It's crazy, and, like, you can never judge that book by its cover.
No.
Whenever before this, I did door-to-door campaigning, and I was just hired by a campaign organization. I didn't care left or right. Didn't matter to me. I got paid. Yeah. And so I was going and collecting funds for one of my campaigns I was doing, and literally I was like, I'm just going to skip past this door. It was like a senior housing unit, right? And it's usually, like, income-based. It was a senior housing unit, and I was like, I don't even want to stop by here, but you know what? I'll just do it. Knock out, like, 16 of these doors at once so I can hit my numbers. Knocked on the door. They invited me in. Of course, they're smoking while they have their oxygen machine there. It was terrifying. Again, cats everywhere. Just a nasty situation. I was literally like, you don't want to give to this campaign, do you? This is what we do. And she's like, oh, no, like, I love that guy. I've supported him for years, and, like, I love what he's doing. I was, okay, well, this is kind of like the entry-level, support, but, like, anything counts. And she goes, no joke, to the kitchen sink, under the kitchen sink. No. Oh. Had cash duct taped to the sink. Ripped off that, gave me like $700 in cash. And of course, because, like, senior housing is based on, like, your income. Well, she didn't report any income.
Oh my goodness.
So again, like, you can never judge that by its cover, because it's just like, oh, this is not what I expected here. But yeah, I mean, it was the nastiest place I've ever been to. Went to her sink and had cash duct taped to the bottom of her sink.
That's awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about, again, we talked about how a lot of these mistakes can happen. And most of the time it's probably not you. And if it is you, I understand that. But let's talk about kind of how to handle those situations. So let's talk first, if you are not at fault. If you are not, and this happens way more than probably somebody truly being at fault. If you're not at fault with the situation, number one, I think you explained it perfectly in your story. Embrace the opportunity. It is crazy. It's so easy to be there for your clients, to be there for consumers when things are going well, because they don't need you. So, like, it's really easy to be there when you're not needed.
Right.
When things are going south, one reason or the other, it's crazy the statistics that show customer loyalty increasing when things are going wrong. Because it gives you an incredible opportunity to fix them, just like you're doing for this client. Again, going beyond and to get those prescriptions and get that covered.
Can't believe that he was like, you're talking to the provider? And I was like, well, yeah, of course. Like, I'm trying to figure this out. And like that said, embrace the opportunity. I've developed a really good, I've spoken to this provider probably 5 times now. She knows me, and who knows, maybe she'll start referring Medicare.
I'm sure if she can say like, hey, I'll get them on something that will help cover this and make it painless for you, then absolutely. Yeah. And again, it's just obviously we talk about loyalty increases. Be there when things are bad. And that's that's truly when the real loyalty is bought. This is a rule that I have, that I teach all of my staff to do this. And I would be very curious to hear from your perspective, because you and I didn't discuss this ahead of time.
No, we did not.
I always tell everybody, my team, my staff, I say, do not say sorry if it is not your fault. Now, I'm not telling you to like give them the middle finger, tell them that they're up shit creek without a paddle. I'm not saying any of that. But in my opinion, when you say you're sorry, you're admitting fault. Even if it's completely in the back of the mind, even if it's like saying like this, if it's very clearly not your fault, but if you say, hey, I'm sorry, even if you're saying, I'm sorry this happened to you, then you are even if it's just very subconsciously to the receiving end of that, you are admitting fault to that. So I say, do not say you are sorry. You say things along the lines of, oh, I understand your frustration there. I can understand why you're so upset. Or, man, I would be really frustrated if I was in that situation too. You get on their, saying, people use I'm sorry to get on their side of the proverbial table. But you're admitting fault. Even if you're saying this isn't my fault, you're still admitting fault. So there's other ways to say,
I definitely say I'm sorry.
It is, and it puts you.
I do.
It puts you on the back. It puts you on your back foot. You then have to overcome something that wasn't even your fault.
Right.
Get on their side of the table by saying these other phrases like, I hate that this happened to you.
I definitely say that.
I hate that you're in this situation. I understand where you're coming from. This is not acceptable. The fact that this happened to you is not acceptable. Get on their side of the table. Do not say you're sorry.
I'm going to try to do that.
It's hard.
It's really hard. Like,
especially
I'm trying
when you're such a service person.
Yes.
It's so hard not to say
sorry. And because I do, like, feel bad they're in that situation. Yeah. you know?
But there's so many better ways to get on their side of the table and to show them that, like, I'm here to help you. There's so many better ways to do that than to say I'm sorry.
I agree. You've given me something to try.
Good. Done. I'm done. I can go home now. The other thing I mentioned too is this is the hardest part, I think, is to not make the carrier out to be the bad guy. And it's really hard to do because a carrier is like a faceless thing.
Yes. Yep.
It's really easy to be like, yeah, they screwed up. Like, screw them, United Healthcare, Aetna, Silver Script, WellCare even. It's so easy to pin your clients against you, or excuse me, pin your clients against the carrier because you feel like somebody has to be at fault. There has to be an enemy in this. And I understand that. But you're still going to continue to write that carrier.
That's why it was Aetna and one of the local hospitals here, when they had that out-of-network thing, that's what I was telling all my clients, like, you know, this isn't Aetna's fault, this isn't my fault, this isn't your fault, this isn't the hospital's fault.
These things happen.
There's been a disconnect between just all of them, and they haven't come to an agreement. Like, there's no one to, like, point fingers at. It just sucks that we're in this situation.
It just sucks. It's just this is not
here's
fair.
How we fix
this
it.
Is not acceptable. This is not okay. And it's okay to say, ooh, it looks like insert name of carrier. It looks like they made a mistake on this. That's so my always thing is, hey, there's humans behind this running the show, and humans are going to make mistakes. Let's try to fix it. Now, there are going to be some situations where some carriers, they make the same mistake over and over and over again, and guess what? I'm not going to write that carrier anymore. I don't care what the commissions look like. I don't care what the premiums, I don't care what that looks like. If I'm seeing the same mistakes, I'm not going to write them anymore. And that's up to you as an agent to make those decisions. But I have no problem saying, hey, man, there are humans running this behind the show. Humans make mistakes. It's my job to make sure we correct those mistakes. I expect some mistakes to happen. That's why it's so important to work with me as an agent versus working directly with the carrier.
Absolutely. You've got an advocate for you.
Exactly. So knowing that they're going to happen, but continuing to sell yourself and sell their services, which is why it's so important to fix the issues and keep your clients in the loop.
I love this last one. I've got a situation with I don't write that many duals, but I wrote 4 duals this last AEP. And 3 of those clients called me in January saying that they got a letter, a bill for that premium, which we checked status and they qualified for the 0 premium. Let's see, 2 of them got a letter shortly followed that says your Medicaid status, you don't have that. The other one, and it's a husband and wife, the wife didn't get that letter. And then she got billed again in February. unbilled again in March.
Don't like that.
And I've spoken to the provider help desk, and they've told me she shouldn't have a bill. But why are you billing her?
Then you're right.
So nobody's giving me answers. I've had to take this way up the chain, and I constantly am just keeping, every time I reach back out, I also reach back out to the client and I'll say, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm still working on this, even though I have no update. My update is that I have no update.
And it's crazy, like, because we'll do that all the time. We'll work on a situation for agents that are literally a month long to fix.
It's been 3 months.
It's, oh my God, that's why. And it takes forever, but it's nice to know, like, hey, it's okay to say I don't have an answer yet. But I'm still thinking of you. Yes. Keeping them in the loop, saying I've reached out to these people, I've reached out. Now, don't give away your contacts. Don't give them your United Healthcare agent line. But I've reached out to these individuals. This is where we're at right now. Making sure that they're a part of that search process so that they feel like they're in the loop. And the thing is you're doing a ton of work behind the scenes for them. They need to know how hard you're working for them behind the scenes because they're not going to see that. All they see is the bill that they get and the annual review they get with you. They need to know what you're doing behind the scenes to keep them happy and to really be their advocate. So making sure, again, keeping in the loop, they'll still stay happier, but you'll also feel like you're accomplishing more and really fighting for them and keeping that relationship. So let's now talk about what if you are at fault. What if, again, maybe you didn't ask them about IRMA. Maybe you didn't, maybe you did miscalculate a premium. That happens a lot. We have all these MedSup companies coming out with these crazy ways to rate people, these crazy ways to give people discounts. So we're seeing a ton more people misquoting MedSups. And it's not usually for the better. They're usually giving a bigger discount than they allow or than they're eligible for. So what happens when you are at fault here? Number one is, again, embrace that opportunity. Absolutely. Even if it is your fault. I mean, me personally, when I'm thinking about I have a service and, like, let's just say this. Like, you go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress there maybe just royally screws up your order, or it takes forever to get your food. You're having a really bad experience at that time. You're probably never going to come back. But if that waiter and waitress says, listen, here's your food. We're going to go ahead and eat the bill on that, and here's a couple free drinks for you as well. Yep. You had a bad experience there, but the fact that A, they admitted fault, and B, that they made up for it and actively try to make it better, it's going to they're going to earn my business back.
Absolutely. I agree fully. You just have to, like you said, I feel like some of my closest client relationships stemmed from something that went wrong.
Always.
I really think that. And I think you can make a good thing out of a bad situation. And like you said, apologize a million times.
You have to. You have to. Again, this is like sincere. This is why I say don't apologize whenever you're not at fault, because your apology should have weight to it, and you should feel that weight. I'm not saying, like, if somebody goes and if you accidentally mess up somebody's coverage, you don't go home and listen to Fall Out Boy and cry until your mascara is half down your face. That's what I'm talking about. But when you do apologize, it should have weight to it. You should genuinely feel that apology, knowing that, like, this might be a hard thing for you to handle today, but you're dealing with somebody's health care and how they receive that. So making sure that you have enough weight behind that, and you can't say sorry too many times.
Like my immunotherapy guy, who he had a $900 bill he wasn't expecting because I told him it was covered point blank. He had my written words that it's covered. And I just said, I am so sorry. I should have asked you more questions. I should have found out what type of immunotherapy it was. I shouldn't have assumed that it was cancer immunotherapy. And this is what I'm going to do to fix it. And we have a great relationship now.
And now it's fine. And it's fine. You messed up, but now it's fine. Again, you just have to mean that. You have to be sincere about it. I think it also comes down to, this is something that I really struggle with, is allowing somebody to express their emotions to you, which sometimes means taking an ass chewing. And it's okay, but I'll tell you what, they're not yelling at you. They're yelling at the situation. And there's nothing worse than when you mess up and you're at fault, there's nothing worse than cutting somebody off and saying, just let me handle it. Oh, yeah. Because they need to feel, again, a mistake where they need to feel heard.
Yep, they do.
Perfect. And sometimes, again, are ass chewings efficient and effective? No, they don't. But if that makes them feel better and makes them feel heard, it sucks. but you kind of have to sit there and take it. That comes with it. That's service. That comes in the service industry, for sure. And then last but not least, keep them in mind. Keep them in the loop, just like before. Keep them on the loop on how you're going to fix the situation. Keeping them in the process. Continuing to apologize. Continuing to say, this is how I'm going to fix it.
Absolutely.
And make sure that they're aware of that.
Communication is key.
Always.
In any relationship.
Last thing, guys, we want to talk to you guys about is something that we're going to see a whole lot more of, and that is going to be handling bad reviews. And how do you handle those bad reviews online? Again, we're seeing a bunch of baby boomers thanks to COVID-19. We're seeing a lot of people actually head to social media to do their shopping, to do their research. And one of the best ways for social media to be used is actually through the review process. And that's great when they're great for you because they're organic. They're not paid for. They're people who are like-minded like them who say, yes, use Carrie. She's the best agent you're going to find. You know, that's who you want. But that's not always the case. Right. And I know you kind of were just talking about how you just received a not so happy review.
I did, yeah. I helped a gentleman about 6 months ago. He wrote me like a 10 on our review, wrote me a wonderful like testimonial. A few months later, I helped his wife, and he wrote a review on behalf of his wife. This was last week. That said, it wrote me a 0, saying we have called.
Quite the change.
Yep, we have called Carrie at least 5 times. She has not returned our calls. She pawned us off on her assistant. And if we're ever going to refer somebody to Carrie, we need better communication. That review was written at 6:02, and I emailed him at 6:08. As soon as I saw it, I emailed him back saying, I am so sorry for this miscommunication. I don't have any missed calls from you. Can we make sure you have the right number for me? I said, here's my cell phone of where you can reach me. Here's my office number, and here's my assistant's number. And he said something about there has been an issue that hasn't been resolved. And I said, please tell me what the issue is. Right. I will resolve it today. I don't have anything going on at 8 o'clock. I mean, this was 6 o'clock, so I wasn't going to call him.
Right.
Even though I knew he just wrote it. Yeah. I said, call me at 8 and we'll resolve this.
Yes. Well, so you kind of just did every single thing that I would have recommended is exactly that. I think number 1 is making sure that you do respond to the review. Don't ignore it.
As fast as you can. I think. As quickly as you can. As quickly as you can.
Yep. Because especially when they're public, for every second they're on there, it can be detrimental to you. So responding to that and making sure you're addressing that review. However, don't argue, I think, is my number 1 thing, because know that a lot of that is public, and a lot of times those people, maybe they're writing that review at a bad time. Maybe nothing actually super bad happened, but maybe you're catching them at a bad time. So do not argue with the review, but make sure, again, that you apologize only when you're truly at fault and explain the situation. Maybe it was, I'm sorry. If he says, I can't get a hold of you, saying, I am so sorry. I was actually on vacation a couple weeks ago. I thought I informed my individuals, but I'm so sorry that you didn't get that notification. Things like that. Making sure, again, you only say you're sorry when you're truly at fault. Explain the situation, and then, even more importantly, to show what corrective actions you're going to take to fix that.
And sometimes they just... you just have to kind of have that ass chewing. And sometimes they need to be heard. And so that gentleman, he emailed me back and said, thanks for getting back to us. We'll call you in 3 weeks when we get back from vacation. So
all these urgent things that they needed, all these urgent big things. No, we'll call you back in 3 weeks after you just left me the 0.
Exactly.
Okay, bye, friend. Bye. That's annoying.
So it was frustrating, but you know what?
I'm sorry, I just got super snarky about that.
He needed to write that, and he felt like he had to write that, and it sucks that that's on my reviews.
I guess, but that's super annoying. I'm going to be annoyed by that.
I was annoyed. I'm over it now. I had my time to be annoyed.
I think that brings me to my last point, which understand that there's keyboard warriors out there. Understand
that's what I felt like it was.
Yeah, understand that there's a lot of the times you're not going to do anything negative. It's not really your fault. But some people, man, they just feel. I guarantee if he was face to face with you, none of that would have come out. But there's something that animosity.
Yep.
Animosity. Whenever, is that what it means? Is that what I'm trying to say? Whenever I don't know who you are and I can't see you? It's really easy to have a puffed up chest when you're behind a keyboard. I mean, honestly. So there are going to be those keyboard warriors out there that are just going to be angry for the sake of being angry, and they would never say that to your face, but man, is it fun to be a jerk behind a keyboard.
Well, and that's what, like, I responded back again, like, I am sorry we missed your calls. You know, I try to return calls within 24 hours. There must have been a miscommunication somewhere. Call me when you get back from your vacation.
For sure. So again, just making you understand, I think the number one important thing there is just to say, like, you do need to address it. You do need to have a conversation about it. And just making sure, I think for me, it's don't apologize. If it was literally like it's some things that like, hey, I'm sorry I never returned your calls. I didn't see them.
Right.
You know, I didn't know that, but you know, that makes sense because you're potentially saying like, hey, like this could be at fault. Another big thing that I like to say is I'm sorry you had that experience. So like for us, I know I'll have a lot of people who will say, you know, I tried to call you, Olivia, 40 times and I only got your voicemail and I only got this, and they'll say things like, okay, like I know you're lying because that's not how my voicemail is, or like, hey, are you using this text? Okay, they can't show me the email. They'll say I emailed you. I'm like, okay, can you forward that to me? They can't find it. So there's some situations that I'm like, they're not being honest.
No.
But I'm not going to sit there and be like...
And argue with them.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with them because that's not... It's just going to get them more hyped up.
The customer's always right.
Exactly. It's going to get them more hyped up and it's not going to do anything to solve the situation. So I'll say things along the lines like, I hate that you're having that experience. I hate that you're experiencing that. I'm not at fault. I'm not going to say I'm sorry. Right. Maybe I'm a jerk for that, but meh.
We had a question from Lisa. Can we remove reviews from public review? I think it depends on where they wrote that review.
It does, yeah. So it depends. I know like on some platforms, like I think on Google, you do have the ability if you have a Google business page to hide it or to remove some reviews. I think Facebook does not allow you to.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think Facebook can.
But if you can get in contact with that individual, then they can edit their reviews. We've had that a lot. Well, you know, I don't know if anybody knows this, but there's an organization that's very similar named to Senior Marketing Specialist. And so we'll have some individuals who will leave us reviews saying like good and bad, you know, good and bad, but we'll get some reviews that are like, oh my gosh, that Michael over there really screwed me over. And we're like, we don't have a Michael. We don't have a single Michael that works here. So then they're like, oh, sorry, I got you guys confused. Yeah. And they'll fix it. So there are ways for you to fix the reviews or edit them, but a lot of places there's not an ability to actually remove those.
Yeah, and I think like, because I've had the review system that we use, we can send them a new one. So like after I resolve this issue with this gentleman, I'm going to ask him to re-review me so that we can basically delete that old one and hopefully I won't be a 0.
We'll be a 0. That just had to go from like I had a 10 to a 0. To go from like a 10 to a 7 or from like a 7 to a 3.
10 to a 0.
That's very, very volatile.
It was.
It's either here or a literal 0. Yeah. So any other questions, comments, concerns, threats, or promises? Oop, I didn't mean to do that. Let us know. Still getting used to technology. I think we're figuring it out, though. Let us know, guys. But again, we really do appreciate you all hanging out with us and chilling with us today.
How do you guys like YouTube Live so far? Have you gotten any good feedback?
I have gotten some good feedback, but mostly from the staff here, but what they think. I'd be very curious as to know what you guys think about the new platform. What do you guys think about the text line versus the typing it out, and so on and so forth. I actually enjoy doing the YouTube Live more.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's more user-friendly, especially I never looked at the GoToWebinar on my phone.
It was archaic.
But
we're going to do a webinar.
I mean, everybody has YouTube on their phone.
Yeah, we're going to do a webinar on Thursday for a Medicare 101. So if you have any new staff or you want to review, it's like an hour-long plus webinar. It's like a full Medicare 101.
There you go.
So we'll be doing that, and that'll be on GoToWebinar. That won't be on Facebook Live. That'll be on GoToWebinar. So, like, you know, we'll kind of play back and forth. But, like, a lot of the webinar formats and the webinar platforms are just kind of archaic. They haven't kept up. So
YouTube's pretty modern, I'd say.
Pretty modern, pretty standard, pretty easy. Awesome, guys. Well, we appreciate you all hanging out with us today. I think that's all the questions we have. Again, if you do have any more questions, feel free to text us or comment on this video. We'll keep eyes and tabs on the comments. So, anything else? Any final words of wisdom you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Nailed it. All right. Thank you guys so much. So until next time, have fun.
Make money.
And give impeccable service. Thanks, guys.